Good afternoon, everybody. It's my pleasure to present in front of this August gathering, and I thank the organizers for inviting me for this talk. In the COVID pandemic time, for last 1.5 years, the world has seen a roller coaster ride. The topic is challenges in running a pediatric lab in this difficult time. The first wave started in 2020 early, uh, taken everybody by surprise. Out of significant fear and apprehension, worldwide lockdown, all elective cases were postponed, emergency continued with protection and with a lot of fear and apprehension. Somehow, first wave we managed, and post first wave there was a lack of all protections at large. The mutated virus strike back with second wave, which caused devastation, multiple deaths, and significant morbidity. Kids were affected more than first wave, though they were relatively lesser symptomatic and having post-COVID syndrome. The world fought back in the second wave and for better understanding of COVID epidemiology, better treatment protocol, and availability of vaccine. Slowly building herd immunity also supported in that fight. The discussions regarding third wave started at the peak of second wave. The fear was the third wave will be more involving the pediatric population and will be more intense than second wave. Till date, the cases are on decline, but we don't know when and how the third wave actually will come. The pediatric cath lab service running in the COVID time is challenging. The health system slowly resumed elective operations of the lab, though the patients are fearful of hospital and they are reluctant to seek care, more so in the third wave affecting kid, that the fear preventing them to come. A negative RT-PCR of child and caregiver is not confirmatory of true negative status. The patient and caregiver may be in the incubation period. So how should we should go about screening for symptoms and mandatory screening for both patient and the caregiver? RT-PCR is always preferred. Ideally, the testing should happen within 24 to 48 hours of their elective procedure, and they should isolate pre-procedure to avoid the possibility of new exposure in the interim, which can create trouble during the hospital stay. As usual, universal protection precaution, masks, sanitization should continue. Possibly vaccinated adult caregiver are better. In the elective cases, slowly it is improving after second wave, and mandatory protection should continue. But in case of emergency, in the first wave it was very difficult. Second wave onward, we should presume all emergency cases are to be positive, and the objective is protecting self and the patient and giving best care to the children. We should send sample still after the admission so that the result may help in hospital stay time. The precaution should continue, and the better we take protection, it will improve the outcome, prevent the overall number and intensity of the disease process, it will flatten the curve as it is doing. For third wave, till date, fear is more than the actual third wave. We anticipated it will go in an escalating fashion, but actually it has still not started. We should continue the same strategy of protection and precaution as we have taken in first and second wave. Though children are expected to be more affected, but they will be a percentage of total affected population. And till date, they are more asymptomatic or less asymptomatic. But in third mutated variant, if it comes, how it will affect in the intensity, the time will tell. All the known things cannot encompass all the story of COVID challenges, and then I wish to share a surprising story of COVID challenge in structural intervention. A 26-year-old lady having 30 millimeter of secondum AHD with a floppy IVC margin was admitted, RT-PCR negative, non-vaccinated. Cardiac catheterization showed a mean RA pressure of 9 millimeter of mercury. Pulmonary artery pressure was 18 millimeter of mercury mean. Left ventricular end diastolic pressure 12 millimeter of mercury with a normal right dominant coronary arteries. Under TE guidance, 34 millimeter occluder was implanted in second attempt. It was a 14 French sheath, smooth release. The sheaths were removed on table and a figure of 8 stitch was taken. Till then, everything was fine. During the trial of extubation, the anesthesia team found endotracheal bleeding, which was unexplained. There was no unanticipated event or injury during the procedure. Heparin reversal was done. The sheaths were already out, so we could not check the pressures. Patient was continued on ventilation and shifted to critical care unit. The X-ray showed some haziness in the left upper zone, which we anticipated, explained by possible bleeding. The device was okay. There was no pericardial injury or collection at that time, and function was adequate. She required to be ventilated for next 48 hours, was extubated on third day, was on BiPAP, then slowly weaned over nasal prong. She was maintaining hemodynamics and saturation. Oral feeding started. And 12 hours post-extubation in the middle of the night, she threw surprise in form of significant breathing difficulty with intermittent chest pain and desaturation, again unexplained. Her ECG demonstrated no significant STT changes. The X-ray showed bilateral pleural effusion feature and possible pulmonary edema-like picture. The echocardiogram showed dilated right side chamber with biventricular dysfunction and features of right pleural effusion. The initial differential diagnosis was possibility of pulmonary thromboembolism or RV ischemia, though the ECG was not very supportive of ischemia. The treatment also started in the line of thromboembolism, heparin restarted, and diuretic along with sildenafil given. CT pulmonary angiogram showed no major pulmonary thrombus evidence. The right chambers were dilated. There was effusion and features of pulmonary edema. The lab parameters showed initially post-bleeding there was drop in hemoglobin, which was corrected by giving packed cell. The Acute phase reactants increased on day 3. The CRP 32, ESR was 28. We repeated the RT-PCR, which was again coming negative. We were still wondering what is the reason for this deterioration. So we sent RT-PCR anti-COVID antibody, which came strongly positive on day 4. The D-dimer was elevated at 2,335. So a provisional diagnosis of post-COVID inflammatory syndrome induced by device closure of ASD in an convalescent patient of COVID was made. She was continued treatment on oxygen diuresis, heparin warfarin, beta blocker, and sildenafil. She improved slowly and discharged on day 7 on aspirin warfarin. The right side dilatation improved, the function improved, the effusion completely resolved. So pediatric cath lab services in COVID-19 times can be challenging, and the challenge can come in any form. Protection of self, patient, and caregiver should be meticulously practiced at all stages in a protocol-bound way. RT-PCR negative patient can also harbor the bug, and recently infected asymptomatic patient in recovery stage can also throw challenge, as in our case. An alert clinician can tackle better. Thank you.